Welcome back to the Self-Esteem and Confidence Mindset podcast with me, Johnny Pardo. Today, I welcome a special guest, Angie, where we're going to be talking about self-confidence, positivity, mindset, feeling good, and much, much more. So, Angie is one of my friends from the personal growth space. We've been in a couple of groups together. And despite Angie having some quite hard challenges in her life, she's actually one of the most upbeat and positive people to be around, certainly from my experience in the virtual environment anyway. So I just wanted to bring her on today so we could have what I know is going to be a great conversation about some of these themes of confidence, mindset, and much more. So first of all, welcome to the show, Angie.
Thank you, Johnny. I appreciate that warm welcome, and it's been a journey for sure. And I appreciate getting to know you, and I've always enjoyed your sarcasm. The laughs are very healing.
Yeah. Yeah, I do what I can for the world, with that. So thanks, Angie.
You're
Anyway,
welcome.
so Angie, let's dive in. So Angie, tell us a little bit about actually what you're doing at the moment and what perhaps prompted you to get into this from a bit of your story.
In the current moment, I am recovering from a major reconstructive surgery and taking care of my two kiddos. I have two little girls, a third grader and a first grader. They just started the new school year today. So I am celebrating with them in their growth and development, and they're really my inspiration. When I didn't dream about becoming a mom, I didn't anticipate motherhood. I just knew that was kind of my role that was expected of me. But when they came to me, it all the lights turned on. They were dim at first because I hit some postpartum depression, but as they grew, I knew things were coming out inside of me that inspired me to do differently, to change, to be happy and joyous on this journey instead of stressed. So currently I am taking all of that work from the beginning of my motherhood through a recent cancer diagnosis. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in February of 2021, and that really turned the lights on fully, because everything I had been doing up to that point I thought was to prevent major disease, and it kind of pulled the carpet out from under me, and it made me question everything and reevaluate. And so I've come to this point where I am creating a business to help guide others, and I'm going to call it Guiding Light, and it's going to be an opportunity to connect with people, whatever challenge or trauma or life transition that they're going through, to guide them to the next side.
Awesome. Okay. Well, that's an amazing thing to be doing, and using some of your story and what you've been through and the realizations you've had. So, wow, that's a very inspirational thing to be doing. And one thing I wanted to kind of like touch on, obviously, life's not always sunshine, rainbows, and stuff like you've experienced. And thank you for being open and sharing some of the challenges you've been through. How did you find it about, I mean, some did you find there are times where you wanted to resist your emotions and how you were feeling? And did you find it beneficial to sit with them at all?
Definitely resisted a lot.
Mm,
Definitely found myself running away and escaping into coping mechanisms or repeated patterns. And it looked different on the surface, but deep down, I knew it was a continued pattern that was either self sabotage or self destructive or inhibiting that opportunity for growth. Like getting on a certain point of hitting the ceiling and then not knowing how to break through and crumbling to the ground. So then it took time to rebuild, and more energy. Kind of like, I've been a military spouse, so I was used to moving, and
Mm.
it would be new places. Didn't have family, didn't have friends, didn't know where the grocery stores were, didn't know my doctors, and had to rebuild, learn everything all over again. And that takes energy. And then it would take time to finally get in a groove and a routine. And it was time to move again and uproot. So I found that happening in my personal life with uh, habits or overall health. I felt like I was constantly in this, I got to lose weight momentum. I'd drop it and then it come back, I'd drop it, come back. There was not an opportunity for sustainability or maintenance. So yes, there was many times I just F it, give it up. I'm done. This is just how my life is. I'm just going to be a hamster wheel. And I have some amazing friends that have sat with me through late night conversations of despair. Like, well, this is it, friends. I'm checking out. And then there were, the morning would come and it would be a new opportunity to reset and try a different method.
Mm. So company has made a big difference for you as well. That's kind of what I got from that a little bit at the end as well.
Definitely. Um, Having network, community, friends, and family, someone to reach out to say, I'm in a raw, vulnerable moment. Can I be seen? Can I be heard? Are you available? And there were many times I felt like a very huge burden and lamenting, like, I'm so sorry. And I'm would go from person to person, and then it would be a feeling of rejection or abandonment, and it would kind of cycle through those rejection feelings until I found that centeredness within me to understand everyone else has their own things too, and if they're not available for me, that's because they're honoring their space, and didn't take it personally, didn't take it internalized. And so that process brought me to the people that I know hold safe space for me to continue through this journey and supporting each other.
Mm. Okay, no, that's yeah, very important message because not everyone's always going to be like supportive or going to make you feel good. And sometimes people, right, don't mean to necessarily be negative, but they're just in their own ways and they've got their own kind of agendas and stuff like that. So finding the right people is something we
Yeah.
always like emphasize.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of times they're triggered by our emotions. They're triggered by something either they don't know how to identify with it and they don't want to feel the feelings, so they want to dismiss it, or they'll push through the ending cliches like, it'll pass, it'll get better, you're so strong, kind of those phrases that are positive, but they hurt because that's a signal that person's not available to listen. So I learned through those things that not everyone is meant to listen. Not everyone has that space. And so I started to turn it around to where, how can I self heal and be available for those people to listen and hold space? And that's also how another factor of why I wanted to develop this business of guiding light. It's not having all the answers for me. It's holding space for that person to
Mm.
say, tell me your story and I'll guide you to the next space that you want to be safe at.
Mm. So giving to others has been a big part of your
Yes.
journey as well, and feeling that good, that kind of um,
Yeah.
being able to be more connected to the world around you.
definitely. It I always knew that I had the ability and the strength to carry a lot of weight, whether it be actually physical in the gym or emotional or life challenges and changes. Um, but there were times that just seemed it was one thing after another. And I was like, yo, can I have a break? I know I can give back. I know I can turn this around. Um, and so now I'm in that point where it's transitioning. People have supported me over the last couple of years, some really big stuff. And I didn't roll over and play dead, or even though I felt it. When I went through chemotherapy, I didn't get nauseous sick, but I got chemically sick and emotionally sick, and so vulnerable to all of my woundings from childhood through current stage. And so I was reliving so many things all over again. And I felt this despair of I'll never be me again. And that diminishes my opportunity to give back because people have given to me so much. I I am lit up and passionate about seeing someone with a need and saying, how can I help you? And if I can't help you in this moment, I'll find a way, or let's stay in touch so we can create a bond in a community and find other people with the right skill set to help you.
Mm. Great. So it sounds like it's a combination of giving to other people, but ultimately making sure you were cared for as well in yourself. And have there been any like tools, or I know there's so many of the personal growth world, but have there been any like tools or personal practices for you that have kind of like helped you work through some of your challenges? Obviously, speaking to other people, fantastic, amazing thing, and
Yeah.
I totally agree. Was there anything else that's kind of helped you in your journey?
Tools for sure. I am an athlete. I played
Mm,
soccer, softball, basketball since middle school through college. So I identified as that competitive nature, go get it, and um, push through every season for the win. And then I learned how to be a weightlifter, and then I learned how to be a personal trainer. And I then learned that that was a very rigid, exhausting toll on my body when I wasn't taking care of the internal things. So I
interesting.
believe that was a big part, like part of my theory of why breast cancer came to me. It wasn't against me, it was to help me shift. And it happened for me to bring me a whole new world of tools. So the tools I have learned since then have been mentorships. So through my mentors, I learned the practice of journaling, the practice of nature walking, the practice of dancing, being free with music. And a lot of these things were things I had forgotten. It was things I knew were part of me, but didn't fully conscious practice. Affirmations, self love, going on dates with myself, um, processing motherhood as well as single parenting as I transition to that stay at home mom life to a working mom life. There's a lot of balance to making sure they have their time and I have my time. So I talk about these tools with the girls about grounding, having our bare feet in the woods or the grass, having journal time, writing love notes to ourselves. We write on my mirrors with dry erase markers. And singing, dancing, being free, basically openness, saying it's okay to be you no matter what emotions you have, but let's make sure everybody's safe. Don't throw your emotions on somebody else. Sit with them and process them and then talk about them.
Mm. Yeah, then yeah, thanks for emphasizing that again. I also like what you or kind of like the point you touched on with you were doing like the exercise and being healthy, sometimes being quite competitive with like your sports and stuff, which I can certainly relate to as well, which is really, really good. But you were doing that, which could keep you physically fit, but you felt you were missing that kind of like the emotional fitness almost at a point. And I've started talking more recently about this. We've got like almost like a physical workout, which that's eating well, going to the gym, go running, go walking. But then also there's an emotional fitness, which I've also been guilty of neglecting, things like just sitting with yourself, processing emotions, not just going, whether it's in the forms of meditating, journaling, sitting in silence, talking it through with someone as well. So I'm really glad you touched on that, and actually you noted that's something that was lacking for you, and now you've addressed that as well.
Yes. It was forcibly addressed in a life or death kind of way. So it was a bit dramatic. Thank you, universe. That's okay. I accepted it and I embodied it. I said, I'm showing up. I'm showing up for this journey. I kicked and screamed all the way. Just imagine a little toddler that didn't get their candy in the grocery store. It wasn't an overnight thing. My awakening started in the summer of 2019, and then a pandemic happened in 2020, and I went through a separation and trying to finalize a divorce, and then cancer hit. So it was all of this whirlwind. It felt like a tornado. And then I was able to step out of the tornado, and sometimes the debris still hits me, but I see the beauty of the storm because it's powerful, but I also see that I'm not caught up in it, and I can observe it, and I can be calm. And meditation is one of the biggest tools that I have implemented, integrated, and now I'm starting to see visions, and it's not like hallucinating, it's not like getting psycho and therapy, but it is sitting with myself to see what my mind wants to create, because that's what stillness brings. It's creation.
Mm. Yeah, and yeah, I like sitting. It's crazy when we sit in silence, and it's very hard in this world. So,
It is
especially when
very,
we're
very
not
hard.
we're not programmed to, are we? Really? So, with everything coming at us like left, right, and center. So,
Mhm.
um, really like the way you talked about how you sort of like try to connect with yourself on that level as well. Um, and also, obviously, that you're going through this journey and you're kind of seeing how it's kind of helping you grow a little bit, and not necessarily it's not necessarily going to feel good in the moments, but I
Absolutely
mean,
correct. Yes.
yeah, I mean, obviously different stories and stuff, but I've been through challenging times as well, and in those moments you're like, it can be tricky, and again we've all got different situations, but it's amazing you've got a part of you that sees, oh, okay, I can see the message I've been given now, um, that I need to be taking care of myself in this way, that I've got something to share with other people now. So yeah, it's very inspirational from what you were saying then.
Thank you. Yeah, I there was a lot of questions. Why me? Why now? Why
Of
this?
course.
What did I do wrong? Um, but then it just the practice of showing up for myself, the practice of all those tools I mentioned,
Mm,
trusting the process. That was a big thing. The message of the theme of my mentorship last year, which was inner child healing through a beautiful soul, Ash, and you know her. And I had to trust the process because I showed up not believing. I showed up doubting, and I was like, what is this about? I think this is crazy, but something's pulling me, something's drawing me in and saying to show up, just like I did for all those practices at 5 a.m. or all of those games uh, against a really tough opponent, or the practices after a game when coach was not pleased with our performance. So I kept showing up. I showed up like an athlete, and then I trusted the process, and then the magic happened. There was a shift, and then I learned about energy, and the spiritual world, and really opening up all of those questions I was afraid to open up as a kid or as an
Mm.
adult and in my marriage. And I asked every damn question. And I said, I'm not satisfied till I find all the answers inside and out. And I don't care if they're right or wrong. It's I'm searching. And that's when the universe opens up and says, "Here, my child, I see you. I have seen you this whole time, and now you see me." It's a relationship.
Mm. Wow. And yeah, the power of mentorship as well, and just investing
Yes.
your time, energy, and usually money into these things can see amazing returns. So yeah, I'm
Definitely.
glad mentorship's been so powerful for you, as well as taking you down this whole spiritual journey as well. So yeah, Angie, I've really appreciated you being so open and sharing your journey today. And obviously there's so much more we could go into in terms of our
Yes.
conversation. So we're kind of only touching the surface, but where can people find you or find out more about what you're doing at the moment?
Yes, thank you for asking. I am on Instagram, more of a blog sharing my journey
Mm.
as I transition into my guiding light business. It will be talked about on Instagram, and um, that is at Fenster19, and it is spelled Fenster with the number 19. And the story behind that is my maiden name is Fenstermacher, and it's German. It means window maker. And my teammates called me Fenster. And it was such an endearing, loving term, that I stuck with it my whole life. And 19 was my number, one of my jersey numbers.
Cool. Yeah, love it. We'll be sure to put that in the show notes as well, so people can find you on your Instagram. So once again, a massive thank you, Angie, for coming on today. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Yes, Johnny, thank you so much. I appreciate the invitation and the time with you. And thank you, all the listeners, for taking time to listen.
Of course. So that concludes our episode for today. And remember to work on your self confidence every single day.